The behavioral change challenge affects public institutions' full embrace of the law, as they are used to working within a culture of secrecy. The RTI law is vital in providing legal background for individuals, journalists, students, etc., to exercise their right to access information. However, the challenge of the ignorance of the law, and sometimes in particular the deliberate refusal by public agencies to provide information because they feel it might embarrass them, is leading to difficulties in implementation at some point. And it's because in many places people still want to treat information on a need-to-know basis. We would like to serve notice, and notice is hereby served, that under Act 989 and in accordance with Article 21(1)(f), information is no longer a matter that people must get access to on a need-to-know basis. It is a right, and a procedure has been provided. Make it available. Another challenge that we are facing is the delay in the passage of the legislative instrument. It's a crucial accompaniment to the Act, and it provides details about the nuances of the Act and facilitates its implementation. Without the LI, certain aspects of the law are still difficult to implement. The absence of the LI has led to some challenges in some areas, as the ambiguities in some parts of the law regarding, for example, the number of days in processing the initial information request, or even the period within which reviews by the Commission should be responded to, are matters that are yet to be sorted out. A lot of work has been done by the Commission, I must say. A lot of stakeholder engagement has taken place, because we would rather take our time and get it right than rush and get it wrong. And we are hopeful that the LI will be laid at the next meeting of Parliament. A third challenge, Madam Advisor, that we have faced is the public records keeping and digitization. Remember, the law deals with information that is available. So where there's poor public record keeping, a lot of public officers can take convenience in saying that the information is simply not available. It has become a challenge in the implementation of the law in some areas. And that is why the ministry, working through the ATID and in consultation with the RTI Commission, is putting in place measures to address this issue using technology. And finally, the challenge of resource constraints. We've still not been able to roll out fully all the information units across all public institutions, and we've still not been able to populate all public institutions with information officers because of the obvious resource constraints. And those are matters that I would not belabor. For next steps, we are working, as I mentioned earlier, to lay the LI in Parliament at its next meeting. We are also working towards the full utilization of the online records management system from 2024. And thirdly, we look forward to populating more public institutions with fully functional information units to allow for effective operations of the Act across all of government in the shortest possible time. We, from the Ministry of Information, the Access to Information Division at the ISD, and I dare say from the Right to Information Commission, will continue to push the implementation of the Act and proactively update the nation on our workings. And we look forward to the partnership of all stakeholders in this endeavor. The discussions and lessons that you share with us today will go a long way to add to what we have already learned from our research, so that we can improve next year and the coming years in our implementation of the Act. I wish you fruitful deliberations, and I thank you for your attention.
Let's keep acknowledging that. I have said at a number of places that the RTIC has endeared itself to Ghanaians in such a way, within such a short time, that sometimes you pause to ask, is this a state institution? Is it a government institution? You know, the normal inertia that you have in many state organizations. So we are thankful about the enormous success, and yet they deem it important that we need to review after only 3 short years of implementation. And some of us have followed with admiration how the Mother Ministry, Information Ministry, is ensuring that all of this is happening. I was in court the other day dealing with a difficult matter, and there are about 7 other lawyers in the same suit. And we discovered that we had a difficulty having a particular piece of information. And then one of the lawyers, very senior, got up and said, "Samson, but have you done an RTI on it?" I said, "Look, I didn't even think about it." So even lawyers are taking refuge. MPs need the RTI Act. All of us, we need it. So let's do everything to make it the best we can. Thank you very much, the Honorable Minister for Information, and MP for Ofuase Ayirebi. Now, we're keeping to a time. We're going to have a panel discussion and have these people who have had something to do with the law. They have had very substantial work to do with the law, to share with us the journey so far. And as I mentioned, the RTIC, in fact, their website is known as rtic.gov.gh. If you do not know about it, please keep that in mind, rtic.gov.gh. I just went there and corrected myself. Their 5-year strategic plan is titled Pathway to Open and Transparent Governance. You go there and there's a lot of information that you can use. Now, we are going to have a panel discussion through which we will discuss and review the implementation so far. Without much ado, let me welcome the panel members, beginning with the Executive Secretary of the RTI Commission, Yao Sapong Boateng. Zachariah Tanko Musa is a legal practitioner. And oftentimes seen to associate with the Media Foundation for West Africa and what they do. The Minister of Information describes the Media Foundation for West Africa as a significant partner in the implementation. We also have Winifred Nafisa Mahama, Dr. Winifred Nafisa Mahama, who is Head Access to Information Division of the Ministry. Thank you very much. Now, these are people who have done a lot of work. And Dr. Nafisa, they have done quite a lot of work as far as the implementation is concerned. So be ready to get the right information that you need. The Honorable Alhaji Ben Abdallah Banda, he is the Presidential Coordinator, Zongo and Inner Cities Development Secretariat, Office of the President, and he is Chairman, Ghana Hajj Board. I have the privilege and duty to throw a few questions at them. Please, the microphones are before you. And I will begin with someone who is deep inside and appreciates particularly the research that has gone on. How significant is the research, the survey that you have had? How significant is it to your journey going forward in the implementation?
Okay, for us at the Ministry of Information and ISD, the implementation of the Act is the first time being done in the country. For every public policy that you embark on, there's a need to, along the line, do some form of monitoring to evaluate what steps you've already put in place. So it was one of the main reasons why we decided to embark on something like that. And going around and implementing the roadmap and everything that went with it, we collaborate with other institutions. We collaborate a lot with the CSO, with the commission and all that. And we pick feedback from them. So it was important for us to get some form of feedback to be perfecting the process as we move along. Secondly, there was a need for us to document something to put down for future referencing, so that it can be a case study for other, for implementing other policies, and also a case study for other jurisdictions to pick up and learn from our experiences. So those are the two main reasons why we went into the research.
So I'm asking because first you did a survey to inform what you needed to do right.
Yes.
And the second time you have done the survey again. Did you find the roadblocks identified in the first survey, which the minister has just highlighted a while ago, in the second survey?
Some of it, particularly, when you are implementing within the public institution, I'm speaking a lot because I'm from the supply side,
right,
and I deal more with the public institutions that we move on. The resistance to change in terms of behavioral change is very, very strong. Most public institutions have administrative processes already in place. The Act says the information officer signs off any request. That alone is a big challenge to some public institutions because the head of institution has to sign off. So it takes a lot of sensitization, as the minister has said, to get people to understand that the law, having the information officer even sign off, protects you as the head of public institution, and also gives you more chance when it comes to the review processes. Okay, those are one of the that keeps going, and we keep perfect. We haven't reached it; it's still there. But as we move along, and with the heads of institution having implementation as a KPI, correct, we've seen that there's a lot of improvement from that angle. The other bit is about the knowledge from the demand side. There's a lot that has to be done in terms of public education and sensitization for people to take advantage of the law. Okay, the RTI Commission has done what they've gone through the 16 regions. At our end, we've also done a lot of work when it comes to sensitization. Presently, we have 178 information officers in the MMDS level, that's at the district level. And we've done a lot of sensitization at the district level because, mind you, at Information Services Department, one of our mandates is education and sensitization on public policies. So it's part of our work schedule. And so they take it upon themselves to do the sensitization. So till we get to all the corners and make the citizen own it, people will not be testing as much as it has. But for what is going on, we can see a bright future ahead of us.
Are you able to give us, by way of some figures, in terms of, say, percentages, where you had as many as 34% not complying? And now that you have introduced that novel, very effective way to ensure that heads are policed properly to ensure implementation.
When it comes to compliance, I will defer the question to the regulator, because
all right,
that is part of the...
Thank you very much. Yes, upon Boateng, that's where we start with you on it. From where you sit, you are the sort of the police.
Yes, so the Right to Information Commission has a department whose object is to monitor and check compliance to the law. Now, we have our internal processes that helps us to investigate your level of compliance. We may come in and check what you are doing in terms of the implementation. We may also throw in a request as if we are regular requesters for information and go through the full process to find out where you are lacking in the implementation process. So far, we have done quite a number of them, and I think that in the beginning stages of implementation, our focus has not been to punish the non-compliance, but to rather help update the loopholes in the public administrative system to help ensure that most institutions improve their capacity to request, to respond to requests. And that's what we've been doing so far. But all in all, I think for this year, we have done in a region of about 400 institutions from January to December. And we have started some regional institutions within the Ashanti and the Bono regions to also check the level of compliance at those levels. So our focus has been to help sensitize the public institutions that are found wanting in their level of appreciation, so that we get all of them up to speed with the implementation. So that's what we've been doing so far.
Great. One thing that's obvious to all of us is that aside looking at your rulings that you have given, which look more like, the judiciary's work, you give rulings that look like judgments. Very good. And yet you have some of the institutions that don't comply. We are yet to know about the level of prosecutions and all of that. What have you done to ensure that you reduce those incidents?
Okay. So I think the decisions we have taken so far, we have taken steps to publicize it. Sometimes when people know what you're doing at the commission, it helps them to also check themselves. Most public institutions do not want to come into the limelight for the wrong reasons. So our decisions have somehow checked most of the public institutions. But for most institutions that you may have heard that we have levied penalties against, we have demanded, some have paid, some are contesting their status as a public institution. So some of our decisions are still before the courts for judicial review. I'm sure the courts will take decisions on them. But those who have failed to pay, we have also taken them on in court and have gotten judgments against some of them, and we are enforcing the decisions of the Right to Information Commission. So it's not enough to say, yes, we have levied the penalty and we've gone to sleep. We also ensure that if you don't pay, we take you on and exact what the law has to get out of you. Right. So yes, that's what we've been doing.
I'm concerned that there are some public institutions we know are not wealthy. You have levied fines once, twice, and I'm thinking, how are they going to get the money? You are going to prosecute and perhaps put somebody in jail, which is not the healthy thing to do. But as you find out that those who are contesting their public status to be under your sort of sanction, what is your recommendation? Are you thinking about any recommendations in that direction to inform the LI?
So the LI has to complement the Act. So there are aspects of the law that has some gray areas. We use the LI to correct it. We have identified it, and we have gone through various stages of engagements with CSOs, with the public, with the Ministry of Information. We've grown the LI to the level where I'm sure there's very minimal wrongs that could be identified. We are hoping that we will use it to cure some of these anomalies in the Act, or to complement the Act. So that will work out. But I think that in some instances, we believe that the law itself is very clear on, for instance, what or who a public institution is. If you read Section 84 of the Act, it defines what a public institution is. It says a public institution is either a private it includes a private organization or a private institution. So where you choose to call yours an organization, it is there for you. Where you choose to call it an institution, it's still there for you. Private, it assumes that we already know what the public ones are, which is the governmental agencies. But when it talks about private, it says whether you are receiving public resources or you are performing public functions, either of the two. So it's very easy for us to identify who a public institution is. And when we are applying the rules, we know who to go for. So for instance, a bank in Ghana listed on the stock exchange, all right, inviting the public to participate, has processes of procurement and all that, using public resources. But they choose to limit public resources to what government may have given them. But for us, we don't see public resources as just what you receive from government. If you invite the public to play with you, I think that they have a right to question what you do. And that is what the law has sought to do. But we are eager as a nation to be questioning what government alone does. But when we sit in our private organizations that offer public functions, then we run away from being checked or being questioned about what we do. I think that it is not novel in the case of Ghana. If you go to the US, you'll find that when they started this practice, every agency in the nature of a private institution was running away from the cover, but the law grew to include them all. So it's a stage that we all go through and make sure that we get a full implementation and we are all accountable for the information we generate and the work we do in the public area.
All right. We should return to you to share with us your major difficulties so that the participants who are here may help with suggestions if they have any. Now, Tanko, you were one of those who were first recruited to go around and help people to understand this law when public officers felt the law was rather bad. By the time you finished your seminars, they were rather happy about it. When the president was committing to the bill, he said, "This is the mother of all anti-corruption laws." Do you think 3 years on that the law is living up to this statement by the president?
Thank you, Samson. Before I answer that, I have to actually make I don't know whether it's a disclosure, but sometimes I feel a bit guilty when we have these issues about the supply and the demand side. Because when we are going around doing the training, so the supply side will be asking you questions, and unconsciously you answer, but sitting back you realize you are arming them with how to just take advantage of some of the loopholes. And that's what some of the challenges we see now.
Right.
Because frankly, I think that, and it's very interesting because the very day the law was passed, I was then actually teaching my level for 300 media law and ethics. I quickly incorporated it into the course outline. And one of the things I did was that year I didn't give them an examination. I put them in groups of 5, and I said they should do an RTI request from an institution of their choice, and that would be. And it was unbelievable. People didn't even know what the RTI was. They were just dismissive. The following year, I did the same. I do that almost every year, and it's amazing. The students come back to me, and they are excited. It's empowering them. They see transparency. Just last semester, they went to the Ministry of Finance, and then they put in a request. And they were like, "Sir, a big man came down and he was asking us what we need it for. We told him, no, the law says we shouldn't give you reasons." And they were so happy that students, and they have a whole director coming there, and they see the humility with which. So for me, I think, yes, there are challenges, but when we went around initially, and then looking at where we are now, I see that there is a lot of transparency. I mean, just take the Media Foundation for West Africa through the 4th Estate. A lot of the information that they have put out there was because of the RTI request.
Right.
So yes, I mean, it is one of those laws that will really change this whole issues we have about corruption. But like the executive secretary said, if you look at all over the world, I mean, when the law is being passed, people don't easily embrace it. I remember something when we went around. I remember when we went to Kumasi and we were dealing with the MMDCs. They said, Namu, my tree is bad. They said, Namu, law ben Namudiba. Journalists for you, Omu Tata, yes, and Namudi Wesu, Babeka, yes, and you know, but then when we went back the second time, they were telling me that, listen, yes, I mean, there are challenges here and there, but they realize that, I mean, it is helping them as well to do their work. Because one of the things that it's happening now is that, for instance, with journalists, you use there is a route now for you to request for information. So you don't really go using the formal or undercover means. So I think by and large, it is good, but I'm sure we'll talk about some of the challenges and how we really can perfect it going forward.
So journalists are excited that they will be in a position to validate, verify some information so that they don't put themselves and their stations into trouble by way of defamation suits and all of that. Following the process so far, what would you say is the single significant challenge that requesters face?
So I think two things. I say to journalists, and sometimes my colleagues don't want to hear that, I say to them that the RTI hasn't really come to change the way we do our journalism in terms of our processes of gathering information. If by all means you have any other way of getting it immediately to enhance your work, that's fine, use it. Because journalists are always thinking about timeliness. We want to be the first with the news. So they really sometimes don't want to be patient to wait for that period, because the law says you have to wait for a certain period of time. And they want that information just like this.
So you plan ahead
and do that, you know. So I keep saying to them that, listen, you have to have the patience to wait for that information. But for me, one of the challenges that we're facing is that journalists think, of course, we are providing a public service. And there is a provision in the RTI law that says that if you are providing a public service, if the information it's in the public interest, you should be exempted from the fees. And they have a situation where I think there is a blanket demand from institutions. It doesn't matter what information you are requesting, it doesn't matter what you are going to use it for, you still have to pay. And there are some bureaucratic, ways that you are using to frustrate the journalists. But I'm saying it's all because of some of the loopholes that I'm sure when we come out with the LI would come and tighten that, and by and large we would see some changes. But yes, journalists are facing a lot of challenges in terms of the bureaucracy and sometimes, and something, I think one of the challenges too is that, like Dr. Nafisa said, some of the institutions have their own way of doing things. So you request information, the law says request through the information officer. You send it to them and they tell you, no, go back and write to the director. And the journalists are thinking, no, but it says to the information officer. And there's this back and front,
right. Do you think through the regulations, through the legislative instrument, this problem can be cured? Because it's a genuine problem that you write, and because of whom you have addressed the application to. There are people who may not have read the RTI Commission's decisions, which have resolved these issues. So should we use the LI to resolve it?
The LI should be used to resolve it. But when you look at the issues that keeps coming up, really, it's not the issue of the LI. It's just, I think, the institutions themselves have to be proactive and realize that, listen, this is the thing. It is the information officer. You don't need to really ask them to go and write to the head of institution, right, because they are denying themselves the opportunity for the review.
Right. Thank you. And the Executive Secretary, I'll return to you on two issues that Tanko raises, and these are the question of fees, where people who are processing the information appear to think that the fee is automatic. Every application you make, there must be a fee to it. In the face of Section 75 1C. And then the question that you have already clarified in your rulings about who to address your request to. Yes, so let's come to the man that some of us tormented while the bill was in the oven. Now, when the president said it is the mother of all anti-corruption laws. My understanding of that was that because this is a tool that collectively all of us can use, and you don't fight corruption with just one small office or police doing their work. All of us collectively must be fighting it. Do you think that this law is helping us to get there in the last 3 years?
Thank you. Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you, Samson, and let me seize this opportunity to enormously thank the minister and his team and the commission for fantastic job so far executed. Governance is about information. Fighting corruption is about information. When citizenry are well informed and educated, then you put them in a very good stead to demand information and also to fight for their right and to fight what is good and appropriate and to ensure good governance. When we were crafting the Right to Information Bill, we did comparative analysis. We looked at India, which is considered as one of the best right to information laws. We looked at Kenya, we went to Canada, etc. And there are these indicators that we looked at. We looked at the scope. The scope, what is the scope about? The scope is about who can apply for information. Is there a nationality barrier? Is there an age barrier? Is there a geographical limitation? In some other jurisdictions, you realize that there is a nationality barrier, there is a geographical barrier, there is an age limitation. But ours is very open. Nationality is not a barrier because the Constitution itself doesn't place a nationality barrier. And then we looked at the procedure. So the procedure, the request procedure, just to ensure that people who apply will have a seamless way of getting information. We looked at that, and then we looked at the sanction regime, and then we looked at other areas that will aid in the implementation of the law. So it is a notorious fact that right to information law is a sanctioned law. It's a law that will be used to fight corruption. But this law was promulgated and has been in implementation for about 3 years now. It will help us in fighting corruption, but we need to get the full complement of the law. The full complement of the law is just one. We need to get the regulations. The regulations will come to complement and to act as a supplement to the law. And then two, the citizens will have to be well informed. And it is not surprised that many people still don't know the existence of the law, because if you read the Right to Information law in India, as at the 10th year of the implementation and then the promulgation of the law, many people, especially those who live on the periphery of the cities, didn't know that there was a law called Right to Information law in India. So people not knowing about the existence of the law, to me, it doesn't come to me as too much of a surprise. But the commission and the ministry will really have to step up their effort to make sure that many more branches are opened. And opening the branches comes with resources. I'm happy to learn that since the opening of the Right to Information Commission, they've been able to open 3 branches, one in Kumasi, of course the head office is here, one in Bolga, one in Sunyani, and they are yet to open another one somewhere in the eastern region, Takrady, if I'm told. And it's a good step.
But they are virtually accessible worldwide, because you just need to send them an email. You just have to go fill the form in there, There's a gentleman in somewhere in the Volta region. He had filed his processes. They had gone through everything. He doesn't know where the office physically is, but he had a ruling.
That's right. So that's right. So the only issue that to me we need to be looking at is to get the public buy-in. Getting the public buying into the law is for the public to own the law. And for the public to be able to own the law, they must really understand what is contained in the law. And for them to understand what is contained in the law, it takes the commission and the ministry to step up their efforts in educating the public. So with ownership of the law by the public, and the public appreciating the law, and the public ready and willing to demand information and to fight what is right and what is appropriate, and to fish out any corruption and corruption-related matters, I think this law will take us far, and of course will help us achieve the purpose for which this law was brought into being.
Right. But as at today, you still disagree with Katie Hammond, who said that the passage of the law will mean that there will not be secrecy in government.
Secrecy in government is a matter of facts and a matter of law. A matter of facts and a matter of law in the sense that the law was crafted in such a way to deal with exempt information. And the exempt information is also circumscribed. If you apply for information and the information officer, by the law and the facts accompany the law, think that this information is one that ought not to be disclosed because it's exempt, then the right information officer will not obviously disclose the information to you.
Thank you very much. Please, we're going to be inviting you in the next 10 minutes to share your questions and your contributions with the process so far. Now, I had mentioned that the Executive Secretary will respond to at least 2 important questions that came up, issues that came up from Tanko's submissions. So, Section 75, 1C, and the fact that addressing the letters or requests, if you address it wrongly, they send you back. If the institution doesn't have an information officer, they say, well, we don't have an information officer. The law says you should write to the information officer.
Yes. So we have tried to use the LI, is in the draft stage, to correct that anomaly. For the proposition in the LI, it doesn't matter who you address it to. If it was addressed to the information officer, he can act on it. If it was addressed to the head of institution, it must be directed to the information officer. I think it's neither here nor there. The person wants information. The who you address it to shouldn't change the fact that he requires the information. So we've made provision for that arrangement to cure that anomaly. Now there is this arrangement.
But the same law requires
yes,
that you demand of each institution to supply their organogram and to indicate whom information requests should go to.
Yes, but we are saying that all that is a matter of bureaucracy that the law has proposed. But if it is hindering access to information, then our focus should be on whether or not you are getting the information. All right, so whatever it takes for an applicant to get the information is what the LI will be looking at, so that we don't let the processes prevail over the substance. That's what we are seeking to cure with the LI. Now, you'd realize that there's this arrangement for internal review. Under the LI arrangement, we are looking to, we are making a proposition to scrap that arrangement. Because in reality, all right, if you request for information from a public institution, there are information officers here. They will never give you the information if the head of the agency has not signed off. In fact, in the ministries, it is the chief directors who sign off the information to the applicants. So how are they going to now review invariably their own decision? All right. So the practical side of it suggests that it is the heads who are invariably giving out information.
So what you're seeking to do now is that once you are refused,
activate the exactly, so that information flow can be faster than the current arrangement. So that's what we are proposing, because from the practice, it is more or less the situation that the heads of the agencies are the one actually making the decisions, because the information officers would definitely not give you the information if they haven't been sanctioned to give you that information. So that's the comment.
Before you come to the issue of fees,
yes.
Ben Abdallah wants to say something about this proposition, and Tanko too wants to say something. Be very brief about it so we can give our audience the opportunity to ask questions.
Yes, so the officer, it goes to the head itself, the powers that head of the institution doesn't have. It must begin with the right information officer. So if the head of the institution purpose to do that, that will be flouting what the RTI
the ground. You have made a law,
yes.
And you say, information officer, you have the power to process the
yes.
information. Now, if you decline, refuse to give the information, the requester should go further up
yes.
to the head of the institution.
Yes.
The information officers are here. He's telling you, they will tell you that they don't do it on their own. It is their head of the institution who approves before they give you they refuse the information. So if you want that same person to review their work, you're wasting our time.
And then we need to have a second look at the law. And we need to have a second look at the law. If the practical implementation of the procedure that has been fashioned and incorporated in the Act is problematic, then we have to go back and have a second look at the law.
I was just going to say that I don't think you can use the LI to cure this problem.
So it's not possible.
We have to go back to the Act. But I think that is all about the goodwill. I mean, like I said, we really don't need. This is a very simple and practical matter. If they want to really get the thing done, they will do it. So let's maybe engage with them and get them to understand the philosophy behind these processes, and then use the Act when we get the opportunity to review the Act, because certainly there are so many things.
Do you think, though, that it is possible to keep the Act's provision as they are and focus on empowering the information officers to exercise their power? Is it practical?
The entry level of the information officers itself is a problem. The information officers that were recruited by the Ministry of Information are all very low-level entry officers. And so, I mean, practically, do you expect somebody who has been asked to provide information about maybe, I remember some of my students went there and they were asking for how much a head of institution was being paid and all those things. And do you think the information officer would confidently release that information without recourse to his boss? And that guy should have some very strong...
But that's what it ought to be. The law is the law is the law. Yes, yeah.
I know, but...
yes, yeah.
Yes, so, Samson, let me indicate that the process is more of an amendment to the Act that we are looking at.
All right.
But the practical side of it is what I wanted to share for our comments.
Thank you. Now to the fees.
In terms of the fees, I think the law is very clear that we shouldn't be charging people for the cost of reproducing the information. There's the Fees and Charges Act 1080 of 2022 that gives out the fees for RTI request. I think a photocopy is in the region of about 28 pesos or 27 pesos, and a printout maybe about 38 pesos. So depending on the count, that's what you are likely to accrue. But all in all, the law makes provisions for exempt categories of information from fees, all right, and then certain categories of persons who are also excluded from paying fees. So if it's in the public interest, if information requested for is in the public interest according to the law, then it is exempt from a fee application. However, the issue of public interest is a matter of evidence. Yes, and it is for a matter of public policy, and let the courts indicate in a circumstance. In some, I've always been giving the example of the situation where in a more structured society where everyone can be identified in a locality by some ID card, all right, you are able to sign a petition and identify yourself, so that if we have about 10,000 citizens or residents in the Kokomlemle area of Accra, and 5,000 of them have evidently shown that they are interested in that information, then it is a matter of fact that it's in the public interest and you are able to give it out. So maybe with the advent of our Ghana cards and others coming up,
that's going to be a difficult task for a requester. Is there not a way?
But there's a way
by which the commission can give guidance. These are what you should look for as information officers when someone applies and says this is information in the public interest, so you don't charge them.
So we are developing guidelines to help guide information officers who have been given discretion, all right, to exercise in certain aspects of the law, so that when they are doing it, they can be guided by the guidelines to arrive at that decision. Because anytime you must exercise a discretionary power, you must be guided by some principles. So that one is being developed. But there's Tanko indicated that there is always a way. And sometimes he felt guilty of empowering the people against the reproduction of the information. But the law also says that disabled persons have access to information for free, and poor people have access to information for free.
I was coming to that.
Yes.
The poor people, indigent people.
Yeah.
How does the information officer confirm that this person is indigent, is poor, so you get it for free?
So the issues of discretion still come up to help guide information officers to determine whether this person falls within the category of a disabled person or a poor person. So that would be an issue for discretion.
All right, thank you. Yes.
I was coming to the point that if I am a journalist and I want information and I look at the volume and I think that it is quite voluminous and it will cost me more when I'm trying to do a story in the interest of the public, I'll look for my disabled friend to assist me. So I think there's always a way. There's always a way. Yeah.
Or your indigent friend.
Indigent friend.
Right. Thank you very much. In fact, I did one such RTI case in the court, and I was urging the judge that this application was in the public interest. So first of all, they shouldn't have charged. In that matter, they had charged 2,000 cedis when the fees had not come out. And we said 2,000 cedis is exorbitant. You can't do that. The judge said, despite we inviting the court to take notice of the fact that the matter was even debated in Parliament, the matter for which the application was made, the judge said, you can't say because it was debated in Parliament, it's a matter of public interest. So go and pay 1,000 instead of 2,000. All right. Yes, very brief, then we bring in. Yeah.
You know, transcripts. University students apply for their transcripts, and they have to pay. And some of these students were very clever. They realized that if you are requesting for your personal information, you are not supposed to pay. So they asked me, they said, so can't we start requesting for this information using the RTI? And then I have my boss, he's telling me I have to be very careful the sort of things I've been telling these students.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. Now, Dr. Nafisa, before I bring in other people to ask you questions or make contributions, you have been acting like sort of a liaison in making sure that the implementation is smooth. Share with us your most difficult challenge that you want assistance to resolve.
It's so wide, I even think of which one should mention. Now you have information officers who have been posted to public institutions to facilitate the process. They are not staff of those public institutions, so they need cooperation and support from those public institutions to be able to respond to RTI requests. So once an officer gets to an institution which already has their culture and there's that resistance, and is that person a spy coming in? Is that person, so we've had instances where we intervene through sensitization and engagement with those public institutions to get the acceptance for the officers and to use them. And for those who accept easily, even sometimes come in requesting for extra officers when the load is very high in those public institutions. So it's with constant engagement and sensitization, public institutions realize that they actually really need the officers at their, because if they are supposed to designate officers, the designation means additional responsibilities to the designated officers, and so the timelines and everything becomes difficult. So that is one of the major challenges.
I can tell what you are simply doing is making a plea. Please, heads of institutions who are here, and those of you already in your institutions and a new person is coming, take it as somebody who is just being employed by the institution. Don't treat them as though they are strangers. So please, a round of applause for our panelists, Ben Abdallah, Nafisa Mahama, Musa Tanko, and also Yao Sapong. Now, please put your hand up if you have a question or a contribution to make. I need assistance to take the microphone around. Yes. Okay. Thank you. I see. We'll do 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then we'll come back for the next round. Like I said, we're keeping to the time. So, please, the microphone. 1 over there, far end. Right. Quickly introduce yourself and brief with your question or contribution.
Hello. Okay.
All right, that's from the significant partner, Media Foundation for West Africa.
Okay, good morning. Sorry, my name is Adiza, and of course I work with the Media Foundation for West Africa. Just a quick one. In terms of the implementation, I've heard a lot about what the ministry and then the RTIC are doing. But I just want to ask quickly, in terms of public awareness, if the ministry and then the RTIC are also considering translating the act into local languages so that...
Dr. Nafisa and the Executive Secretary. The next person, right there, the lady. Thank you. Then the third person is in here. Then the fourth is here. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you very much. My name is Ajua Dubia Owusu, also with the Media Foundation for West Africa. Mine is more of a contribution. I think that despite the decision that has been taken by the RTI Commission, we've still had some challenges with the determinations that they make. So for the Ghana Police Service, the Ghana Fire Service, the Ministry of Defense, the RTI determined that they should pay some fines because they refused to give us information. But what we've noticed is that after the determination, they still do not give us the information. We've even had that issue with the Minerals Commission where the issue went to court because they were requiring that we pay as much as $1,000 for information, and despite the High Court's decision for them to give us that information, we still do not have it.
No, but you know that they have gone to appeal.
Yes,
so they're on appeal. They can't give it.
Yes, that I know. But with regards to the Ghana Police Service, the Ghana Fire Service, yes, as much as the RTI Commission, they need their money to be able to run their tool, has become a very major tool for us to use to fight mis and disinformation. With regards to the determination, I would plead with the RTI Commission if they can limit the number of days that it takes for them to determine. Sometimes it takes so long, and we still have some with them that they haven't taken any decision on that. And before that information is gotten, or before we receive that information, that story is probably over, and there is nothing that we can do about that.
Thank you very much. Very good questions there, two of them. Yes, please stand. Please stand. Thank you.
Thank you. Arthur Mensah from Ghana News Agency. I have two questions. First, to Mr. Sepong. In your presentation, you said the focus now regards to the
first to who?
To Mr. Yao Sapong.
Okay.
Regards to the implementation of the act, you said the focus now is not to punish non-compliance, but to improve response to requests. Are you not making the heads of institutions more relaxed? Because there's no punishment. So for how long will you give them this caveat for them to relax until you enforce the law on them.
Thank you.
Then, two, to the Minister of Information. You said the draft LI will go to Parliament in the next meeting. I want you to clarify whether maybe this year, before they go.
How difficult it has been to push this act through over the last decades, having been part of the incremental movement of it month to month, week to week. So I congratulate you, and I think they deserve a big round of applause. While we were speaking, I believe I did not hear anything about the deterrent power of the act to corruption. And I feel it's a very important thing that should be considered by a forum such as this. I have the belief that even the existence of the act itself is a huge deterrent to groups, businesses who might want to engage in corrupt acts, what this act can do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. People will come ask questions, and I must acknowledge, with your permission, that tonight at 6 p.m. at the National Theatre, there's an event in honor of Akoto Ampao, one of the guys who pushed this like no other did. Please make time. Let's be there. National Theatre, 6 p.m. tonight, to remember him. Yes.
Yes. In terms of translating apps online, and if it's easier if we put the soft copy of the act online and people are able to use their computers to listen to the act in the local language. So if people can be aided to get that, it's easier. But in terms of funding, you know that we are challenged. So if you want us to find funds to do this, it may take quite a longer time. But with the guidance, we can do this. We've had a conversation with the Ekropon School for the Blind in terms of translating it into a Braille version. The challenge was that to get, I think, about 100 copies of Braille, we were in the region of about 400,000 CDs already. How many people can we reach with that kind of a translation? In a conversation with the Ghana School of Law on how they are able to get their blind students to partake in the legal education, the students prefer that you give them the soft copy and then their computers are able to read it out to them. So there's a way of bridging that arrangement, which we are encouraging our disabled groups to go for. Yes. So yes, we are working on that assiduously. There to help you. So it is not enough to just sit back and complain that Ghana Police Service has still not given us the information, but take steps to draw the Commission's attention, and whatever it takes, we will help you. Now, in terms of institutions that we have levied penalties on and they have not paid, we have gone to court to enforce the decision, and it also includes getting the courts to compel them to release information that is associated to that determination. So please take note of that and help us to help you. All right. Thank you on that one.
I suppose that
there was a gentleman who spoke about
of whether you are delaying punishment. But if you want to say something,
yes,
go ahead.
The issue about focusing on compliance instead of the punishment. All right. Honorable Abdallah Banda had indicated that we should improve the education. All right. And that is how we can get all public institutions on board. It is not to say that we are slow to punish, but if the people you are working with have not been sensitized or educated to know their obligations under the Act, it is very difficult to just throw in the whip all the time. Otherwise, you are not helping the process. The process is not intended to punish. It is intended to ensure that people within the jurisdiction of Ghana have access to information.
Thank you.
We are slow to draw the whip than to...
Dr. Nafisa,
yes.
There was a question directed at you, so... Correct? I suppose, okay, Yao has answered that substantially, but she felt that you also have a role to play in making sure, because money matters, translation and the rest.
Okay.
From where I come from, most of the issue to do with translation, from ISD perspective, has to do with public education and sensitization. ISD has the architecture. If I say ISD, the Information Services Department has the architecture to sensitize people to the remotest area of Ghana. We are in all the districts in the regions, and we have staff who do the sensitization in the languages that the people speak. Okay, so we are all into the fact that we need to do nationwide public education and sensitization on the Act itself.
Legislative meeting before summer, then there's a budget meeting. So in my remarks, as I mentioned, at the next meeting, we are currently in the budget meeting. The next meeting is the SONA meeting, that is at the beginning of the year. We're expecting that by that time, would have received all the responses from the various stakeholders, and then we can lay the legislative instrument.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Something. I think Madam Oboshi mentioned the issue of making it clear how this law actually
It's on now. It's on now.
empowers people.
It's off again. It's on.
Yeah. How this law empowers people. And you know within the law, within the law, even if you can't read and write, the law allows you to request for information in the language orally. And I think this is very empowering. And so I think it is something we need to constantly make people aware that it doesn't matter who you are, you can request for information, you don't have to give reasons. There's this issue about punishment. And I think I have a problem with this punishment, because when you look at the punishment, the fine, who pays the fine? Whose resources are going to be used to be paying the fine? These are issues we need to be really looking at. So for me, if we can find a way of getting them to comply, it's better, because invariably, you cannot say that the person has, unless you can demonstrate that the person has willfully refused to provide that information, in which case you'll be arguing that his or her earnings should be attached, which itself have got a lot of challenges.
All right.
So I think let's find a way of getting people to comply.
I'm aware of some proposals for the purposes of the LI that sought to, define clearly the lines where individuals will be held personally liable to pay, rather than saddle the institution with your own, recklessness. Yes, the next and final round of questions. Yes, I've seen two hands here, 3. This time it's only for this part. Okay, let's take the microphone to them. Mariada and the next person and the next.
Good morning to you all. My name is Mary Awelana Ada. I work with the Ghana Integrity Initiative, also here on behalf of the RTI Coalition. I believe when we mention the RTI Coalition, everyone assembled here would recognize and appreciate the efforts that were put in place by civil society to ensure that we have a law. I would want to commend our efforts, and then also to thank the minister for supporting this process through getting the law passed. Then also to the commissioner, Aiko, on doing a very good job thus far. Your support is infectious. We only want to say more grease to your elbows, and to also ask, what are we doing together? Because we believe that there is a lot more. I have heard people ask about public sensitization. Civil society is located everywhere, like Nafisa said, ISD. What can we do more together going forward to ensure that those of us looking for information have it in the shape and form we want, but then also those who need to be informed about the existence of the law also know it is there. I believe when we have more
and one has to do with Emmanuel Essien, who went on, the supervision at sea and went missing. That was in 2019. Until date, we don't have information to that effect. I personally asked the fisheries minister to that effect, and the response she gave was quite different from what the information minister, who is currently here, gave to us some time ago. And a colleague at Joy News, who we were working with regarding this story, senior, I know you know him, that is Nyako, Kuju Nyako. Till date, he put in a request to the Attorney General because he was referred to his office. And the Attorney General later also referred him to the Inspector General of Police regarding that. And later we were told that because the matter is still under investigation, such information cannot be put out in the media.
All right.
So I want clarification to that effect.
Thank you.
What kind of information do we classify as national security?
Okay, but you begin with reading the act for yourself.
Yes.
As a journalist, that is important. You need to read because you see the clear, demarcations to read because you see the clear, demarcations there. There's another person. Yes. Now, and I'm limiting your question to one, not two.
All right, thank you very much. My name is Augustine Boache, the Information Officer for Lands Commission. I want to find out from RTI Commission, do they have any specific plans for the RTI officers? We know we are given birth by the ministry, but we are working for the commission. We want to know, do they have specific plans for us? Yes.
And please allow him to. That's what is important to him. Yes. Please.
And secondly,
not secondly. Thank you very much. Last one.
My last
one question.
It's about setting up the information offices at the various ministries. We know, even though we are there, but some of my colleagues will bear with me that our situation there are not the best. Mine is different, but I know some who are not getting it easy at all. Aside the effort being made by the ATI division, and I'm very particular on the RTIC, what role are they also playing to ensure that our stay in the offices as comfortable for us to deliver?
Thank you very much. Please, the very last questioner or contribution. Please, forgive me. I'll give it to the lady, and we end it. Hey, Lands Commission, you have a better condition, and yet you got slapped with fines how many times? Because you delayed. And even when the RTI Commission kept coming to you to give information to help them determine the matter speedily, you were not cooperating.
Thank you very much. Please, my name is Margaret Yebwa, the Right Information Officer for Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Please, my interest is in the area of third-party disclosure. Last month we received a request from an applicant who asked for the passport details of a passport bearer. And not just the details of the bearer, but the information of his guarantors as well. So I had the privilege to work with my legal director, and she suggested that we have to quote the Data Protection Act, a portion of
information, or any other law that will come after this law. Insofar as it relates to access to information, this law is supreme. That is exactly what it's saying. When it comes to third-party information is protected according to the Data Protection Act. So once it is protected, you don't, so that it is exempt, you can't give it out. There are circumstances under which third-party information can be given out. And that circumstance, or those circumstances, one of those circumstances is that if the third party gives his or her consent that information ought to be given out, I will want to advise the minds of the commission to have resort to the Legal Aid Commission Act and appraise themselves as to what it means or who is an indigent. There are two ways to me of resolving the issue. You may want to use guidelines because the Act has already given the foundation as to who foundation that an indigent is exempted from, because the regulation comes to supplement or complement the act. You can detail out who an indigent is by using the means test, so that if a person claims that he or she is an indigent, once the parameters have been given out in the regulation or in the guidelines, the information officer will then have resort to those parameters and decide whether the person is entitled to be given information free or not.
Right, so please go ahead. And you can also see the Attorney General for advice. He's there for you. And the Attorney General's office is one of the most responsive offices when it comes to RTI requests. Yes, please. You are under 3 minutes.
So to CSOs and the RTI coalition and the media partners, the Right to Information Commission is forming our mandate, and we have always invited you to our table when we are doing anything that seeks to reach out to the public. So I think that you should, the last time we were at a table with you was on our launch of a 5-year strategic plan. And we invited you all to review the plans we have as a commission for the next 5 years and see how we can collaborate together. It's still on the table. Our doors are always open. It's a public institution. Please feel free to engage with us and let us see how we can work together going forward. There's one point that I've always made when I've had the chance to educate the public on the Right to Information law, that no institution under the law is exempt from the application of the law. No institution. You cannot say you are the Ghana Police Service, you are National Security, you are the Ministry of Defense or the Ghana Armed Forces, and therefore the law does not apply to you. But at every point in time, it is the information under review or under request that we can assess to see whether or not under the law there is some kind of exemption that excludes that information from going out. Then we can apply it. So no manner of person or institution is exempt from the application of the law, and it is very clear. People make requests to the office of the president, they get the information. Sometimes it is referred to other agencies. The Media Foundation indicated that it is not all our decisions that they are in favor of or they are in agreement to. But I think that the law doesn't end with the Right to Information Commission. When we make a decision and you are dissatisfied, there's a review jurisdiction of the High Court which you can activate. So please don't just end it at we don't agree with the commission and then we don't help to develop the law to its limits. Take us on in court and let's allow the law to prevail. Taking the commission to court is not personal. It's only helping to develop the frontiers of the law. So please take note of that. I think that the Honorable Abdallah Banda mentioned something about how we could possibly merge the Data Protection Act and the Right to Information law at a point. But the Right to Information law actually protects third-party information on its own, and there's a provision in the Act for that. And personal information is protected under the Right to Information law, except with the consent of the individuals involved. In fact, it is an offense in the Act to put out information of persons without their consent, or to do so under false pretenses to gain access to other persons' personal data. So the law has enough room to protect individual and personal data. But the difference between the data protection law and the Right to Information law is that the Right to Information law is on public access to information, and the information usually is public information, while the Data Protection Act considers individual information. So that's the difference between the Right to Information Law and the Data Protection Act. Yes. I don't know if
All right, thank you very much. Please, a round of applause for our panelists, Yao Sapon-Boateng, Executive Secretary of the RTI Commission, Zakaria Tanko Musa, who is lecturer and private legal practitioner, Dr. Winifred Nafisa Mahama, who is Head of Access to Information Division, and the Honorable Alhaji Ben Abdallah Banda, who is at the presidency coordinating Zongo and inner city developments. Please, a round of applause for them again. I want to also acknowledge Adjoa Adobia, who's an investigative journalist. She should have been here with us. Forgive the mishap. Now, we would like to invite back here the Chief Director for closing remarks. No, the Director of the ISD for closing remarks. The Director of the ISD. Please, you can please take your seats. David, please, you can use here.
Honorable Oboshi Saikofi, Presidential Advisor on Media and Strategic Communications. Honorable Kojo Opon Kroma, Minister for Information. Honorable Fatimatu Abubakar, Deputy Minister for Information. The Executive Secretary, RTI Commission, the UNESCO Country Rep, all protocol observed. It is indeed a thing of joy anytime that we talk about anything, information, in as far as ISD's transformation is concerned. For even having RTI as a critical component of the work of the Information Services Department is indeed something that we celebrate. It is on this grounds that we want to celebrate the Honorable Minister for Information for this push in getting ISD transformed and ensuring that ISD plays a critical role in ensuring the accomplishment of the task of the RTI in general. We want to say, God bless everybody who has played this role in bringing ISD this far and ensuring that information dissemination is carried so far such that ISD's mandate will go beyond just using of the information van to disseminate information. It is on this note that I want to also say that we really appreciate UNESCO and the collaboration between the RTI Commission and ISD in ensuring that indeed we go far in as far as government communication is concerned. We thank everybody who has played any role too in ensuring that this program becomes a success. We say, God bless you. Thank you so much.
And please forgive my manners. I simply introduced him as David. So David Owusu-Amwa is the director of the ISD. He's a brother. Yes, we are brothers. It doesn't matter where I come from. We come long way. So thank you very much. We call on Genevieve Vuto to give us the vote of thanks. I've seen many very significant persons in here, but it's Genevieve's duty. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I sit on the existing protocols to give the vote of thanks, and it is my pleasure. On behalf of the Ministry of Information and the Information Services Department, we thank God for a successful learning and sharing and for making the program a success. We extend our sincere thanks to Honorable Oboshisai Kofi, Presidential Advisor on Media and Strategic Communication. Special thanks to the Honorable Minister Kwejo Opon Kroma for enhancing the right to accessing information and promoting transparency in Ghana. We appreciate the continued support from the Right to Information Commission and thank all dignitaries, diplomats, and representatives for enriching our discussion. We extend our gratitude to the esteemed panelists for shedding light on the impact of the right to information. Thanks to our partner, UNESCO, Right to Information officers, organizing themes from both the Ministry of Information and the Access to Information Division of the Information Services Department, and the media for their efforts in ensuring the success of this forum. We say thank you, Yadase. Oyiwolodong, Akpe. Thank you.
Thank you, Genevieve. So after Genevieve has spoken, my job is done. Thank you all so very much. You were here on time. As I said earlier, never seen it before. All seated even before the program could start. Please, shall we be upstanding and allow for our dignitaries? The entire commission is here. You know, there's supposed to be a photography session right here. Okay, with the commission. Please, thank you very much. We are done. We are just having the photography session and we are done. Thank you all very much. Yes, please. Up. Yes, please.